Okay, yeah, well, farming here with Peter Jeffrey, my neighbour next door, and between us we're cropping a bit over 4,000 acres between the two farms, and we've set up a partnership where we're sharing the machinery. So we've bought the cross-slot seeder between us, and we're sharing other machinery. We're essentially running the two farms as one management unit now, and doing it that way. And that's basically because we want to share labour and share resources to give us economies of scale. Well, traditionally we're in a 20-inch rainfall. The last probably 6 years we haven't managed 10 inches or less than 10 inches in any growing season, and we're sort of aiming for crops in that 5 to 6 tonne hectare for cereals or better. But we've been lucky to maintain probably half that in the last 6 years. Well, we've sort of converted over to, I guess, minimum tillage in the last 10 years, where we've been using knife points on a combine. We've best got away from the traditional cultivation and sowing operations, and I guess it's been an evolution to keep that momentum going in changing our operation, where we wanted to fully retain our stubbles. We've traditionally always burned our stubbles, which we've wanted to get away from, and so we've always, I guess for the last 5 years, we've been looking for a machine that's been able to handle the stubble. We've been traditionally on 12-inch rows, on 8-inch rows, and we've gone out to 12.5-inch rows now, and we want to sow into that stubble under any condition and leave it there, and using a combination of cereals, pulses and canola in our rotation. Yeah, look, I guess the moisture conservation is the biggest thing for us, because like I said, we can have years where we're only getting 200 millimetres of growing season rainfall, and traditionally we'd be expecting sort of in the realms of 350 to 400 millimetre rainfall. So I guess that would be the biggest driver in that, and it's also just the fact that we wanted to get away from having to burn stubbles. We just couldn't see any future in it, because we're just burning all that residue. And we just wanted to be able to incorporate those stubbles because I mean our soils, Australian soils, are very low in organic carbon to start with. So any organic matter that we can put back into the system is only improving the structure of our soils. I mean, we've seen it since we've gone to tram lining in the last 8 years, where we've been running our seeder and spraying and spreading operations on permanent wheel tracks, that the soil structure changes that have occurred in the areas that aren't trafficked, and to be able to take that now to a full controlled traffic system is where we'll see that next step in production. I mean, with the tined machines, it was no better than the seed placement was, so it was variable. But yeah, being able to put the fertiliser, being able to band it separately from the seed, and being able to place it exactly where we wanted it was fairly critical in choosing a machine to do that. Well, it does, because I mean, terms of trade aren't getting any better on the farm, so by joining the two farms essentially as one management unit, it meant that we could essentially buy, we could buy equipment that was bigger than we'd be able to purchase by ourselves, and we could afford technology that was probably outside of our grasp previously, in terms of being able to afford it. But see, look, the other option too is, I don't necessarily think we'll sow everything on the 12.5-inch row spacings either. We'll sow all our chickpeas and faba beans on 25-inch rows, and potentially even the canola. I think we'll probably start. We were going to trial some this year, but we'll do some next year. We'll put some of the canola out to 25-inch rows and see how it goes. Because I think once we're in that stubble situation, that the canola will do no trouble at all on the wider row spacings. I mean, we'll never do that with wheat, but then we want the wheat on the 12.5-inch row spacings, so we can actually, that gives us our stubble cover, because we don't get a lot of stubble out of the legumes, and we get, I guess, half the amount of stubble out of the canola that we do out of the wheat. Well, it's interesting because everyone says, moisture is our limiting factor, but actually I don't think it is. Even in these low rainfall years, I still don't think moisture is our limiting factor. Like it is in terms of in what we relative yield, but I still see that the stubble is actually the biggest limiting factor, because I've got paddocks where we've sown. A classic was in 2006, we had faba beans direct drilled into a wheat stubble, which we'd attempted to do, but we're getting too many blockages, so we burnt the rest of the paddock that we hadn't sown. And when we harvested, the faba beans in the stubble were only 600 kilos a hectare, but it was only 300 kilos a hectare where we'd burnt the stubble. So actually I think the residue is actually probably our biggest limiting factor. But in terms of our yield potential, it's interesting that we can push 8-9 tonne a hectare on the irrigation, and really there's no reason why we can't do that if we've got ample moisture in spring, why we can't do 8, 9, 10 tonne a hectare in our dryland crops. We've seen on the yield monitor last year, we saw that we had wheat going up to 10 tonne a hectare on the irrigation, and that was essentially only 2 irrigations, which was equivalent to what a reasonable spring would have been. So I think our cereal yield potential is 10 tonne a hectare, but we won't get that unless we've got residue on the ground.